Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about Heroes of the Storm because I've been playing Heroes of the Storm quite a bit, particularly when I play with the Squadron, and I've also played a couple of times with Pally Time and Captain Shack, put that on my channel as well. And I wanted to, I kind of never really did my first impressions type of video on Heroes of the Storm, so I guess this is kind of it. I'm doing post commentary, so the footage that you're watching is a match that I did earlier where I was playing as Uther, and I believe I even recorded that match while I was listening to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles music. This music from a Genesis game, the Hyperstone Heist, which is a game that I really love. So I recently downloaded that soundtrack and I was just listening to it while I was playing, and I forgot that I was actually recording, so the music is in there. But I don't think that's copyrighted, at least I hope not, so let's hope everything's okay with the video. But anyways, getting back on topic, Heroes of the Storm. Now, as you guys know, I've played League of Legends quite a bit back in the day, even back when I was originally with TGN before I even joined Maker. I played quite a bit of League of Legends. I've also played maybe 2 or 3 matches of Dota 2, just to get an idea of that game a long time ago as well. And I would like to give you guys my input on what makes Heroes of the Storm stand out from the rest of the crowd. Now, as you guys know, from the times that I played League of Legends, my role would always be support. Now, the reason why I would always play support, I've mentioned this a number of times, so a lot of you guys might already know what I'm talking about, but since there's always new subscribers coming in on the channel, there's always some information that I kind of have to repeat, so bear with me a little bit here. But the reason why I always played support in League of Legends is because I couldn't stand last hitting. Now, a lot of people say, oh, it's because you didn't have the skill to last hit, to which I reply, skill, the last hit. Okay, I'll just leave it at that, okay? That's all I'm gonna say about that. No, I could last hit just fine. It's just I didn't fucking like it. I thought it was a bad mechanic. I just thought it wasn't cool. And I thought it was actually a deterrent to team fights, because a lot of times you would have players that would be so obsessed with their farming and their last hitting that it would just completely ruin the experience for me, because I'd be like setting up these awesome kills that all the AD carry would have to do is, for those of you who don't know, an AD carry is like the character that does the most damage in your team usually. All the AD carry would have to do is just come in there, shoot the enemy twice, kill him. But no, they'd be way too busy like farming their little minion wave, you know, tending to their farm. And I was just like, why don't you should just go fucking play Farmville, seriously, because it's just retarded what you're doing right now. But anyways, that is the reason why I always played support. I couldn't stand the mechanic of last hitting. Another thing that I didn't like was the fact that as you are playing support, you usually don't get as much experience, particularly if you're roaming between lanes. You usually tend to get less experience, or if for some reason you died a lot earlier in the game, you get less experience. And eventually the game just kind of tends to snowball one way or the other. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in Heroes, it happens as well. The game will snowball, but it's just, I kind of feel that the way a game snowballs in Heroes of the Storm is very different from the way a game would snowball in something like League of Legends. Because League of Legends, you would kill stuff, you would get gold, then you would go back to base, you'd buy yourself a bunch of items, and then you would be just like retardedly more powerful and you would kill everyone in your path. In Heroes, it's not as easy to snowball, which is something I really appreciate. At least, this is my personal opinion. Again, I'm not an expert in MOBAs, and I don't claim to be. I just really enjoy playing MOBAs, and I was just sick and tired of League of Legends, because I kept picking up these people who were just like, oh, I'm going to farm for like 30 minutes, and then we're going to get the game started. And I'm like, that is the most boring fucking thing I've ever heard. So what is Heroes of the Storm doing differently from, let's say, League of Legends, for instance? Well, for starters, there's no items. There's no items. The only thing you really have is the build of your character. There's also no runes or any mechanic like that, at least currently. There was a version of Heroes of the Storm where they implemented runes, but they quickly removed it because the community didn't really seem to respond all that well to it. So there's no runes, there's nothing like that. All you got is your talent build. Now, there is something still in Heroes that is not that great, which is the talent gating system, which is whenever you start playing a hero for the very first time, they kind of limit the number of talents that you can select, which is a really bad idea, particularly if you talk with Pally Time. He rages so hard on the talent gate system that it is just, yeah, it's just something that is very frustrating, particularly for the more veteran players. Now, if you're a newer player on Heroes of the Storm, I don't really think the talent gate system is a big problem. The problem stems from the fact that, for instance, Palitime has played this game through like 2 or 3 wipes or something, and he's had to redo the talents on all the characters 2 or 3 times, which is just completely and utterly ridiculous. But, yeah, so there is that talent gate system that will limit the number of talents that you have on each hero, but your heroes level up. However, they don't really get any particular benefits to leveling up apart from unlocking all their talents. By the time you reach level 4, which is like, I don't know, 3 to 4 matches maybe, depending on how well you do, you will usually have access to your entire talent list for that hero that you play with, so it's not a terrible deal. But again, the talents is essentially the only thing that you're going to be customizing on your hero, and you're like, oh wow, that really limits things, and no it doesn't. Because there's a lot of variety, there's a lot of different builds that you can do, and a lot of different things that you can juggle with your team. And team is the key aspect of Heroes, in my opinion. Because whereas in League of Legends, you could a lot of times you could have people that would just like carry an entire team by sheer like strength of the character alone, because like they killed a bunch of people, so they had a bunch of gold, and they bought a bunch of items, and they just like completely snowballed into this unstoppable champion of doom. Like examples of this would be, what was one of those really good AD carries? Let's see if I can remember the names. Oh man, I can't even remember the names anymore, but there were, I mean, I remember Miss Fortune was pretty beast, but she was not the best one. There was another one who was better, and I can't remember it now. Varus was definitely one of those carries that would like snowball into complete friggin' awesomeness. But then again, I could be saying names that are like the most nerfed characters in the game, and I wouldn't even know it. But yeah, some characters would snowball really hard. That doesn't really happen as much in Heroes of the Storm. Now, there's still a lot of balancing issues, granted. Definitely lots and lots of balancing issues, particularly with heroes like Nova. Nova was just broken for a long time. I think they nerfed her a little bit now, but she still feels really powerful. Right now, a hero that I would have to say is just ridiculously powerful as well is Illidan, simply because there's a skill that he does that pretty much prevents him from getting hit by anything, which doesn't really seem like it was intended to be that way. But there's no real like hero that I would say, oh, this hero just will obliterate anyone if he reaches this level of skill. And the thing is, everything is about the team, and it's all about team fights, because your whole team will get experience at the same pace. So there's no use in you just farming by yourself, because the experience gets split throughout the entire team. So either the entire team is farming so that everybody gets XP, or you're farming but the XP is getting split out through the entire team. So that is something I really like, so the whole team is always on the same level. That is a feature I really like. I know that a lot of people don't like this feature, and that's really their problem. I just think that it's just a very much superior way of doing things. And I know that a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's simplistic, and it's this and that and the other. Yes, games don't need to be complicated to be fun. As a matter of fact, usually it tends to be the other way around. Like, you think Dark Souls is some kind of incredibly complex thing? I always bring up Dark Souls because a lot of my audience likes Dark Souls, so it's a good point to compare. Dark Souls is not that incredibly complex. It is just very cool, and you can do a lot of stuff with it, but once you get the core mechanics, it's actually pretty simple. Heroes is even more simple, obviously, but I don't feel the need for a game to like overcomplicate itself to be fun. And that is what I feel, for instance, Dota 2 is. Dota 2 is just... When I played Dota 2, I was like, okay, I need to buy stuff, and apparently we have this courier thing that I can buy, so I bought stuff, I put it in this courier thing, I sent the courier thing to my lane, then I told them to drop it, and my team ninja looted everything, and I was like, I don't understand how any of this fucking thing works. And after that, I got killed, and we were like playing against bots. I got killed once, and it was like, forget about it, you're out of the game, it's over, it's over, it's over. And that was essentially what happened. Like, I wasn't able to be competitive at all for the rest of the match. So that was not a pleasant experience. Like, if you were to say that currently the games that are out, because Heroes of the Storm is still like in tech alpha, it's about to go into closed beta, which means that a lot of people are going to get access to Heroes of the Storm really soon here, I believe, on the 13th of January, if you are signed up for the beta. Most likely, if you have like a long-standing account with Blizzard, and you're signed up for the beta, you have that on your Battle.net account settings. If you don't know where that is, just log into your Battle.net interface, and look for the beta sign-up settings, whatever. There's going to be something in there. A lot of people are going to get access to Heroes of the Storm on the 13th of January. I'm pretty sure. But anyways, the current games that are like the main two MOBA games, I would say, is League of Legends and Dota 2. And if you would say that League of Legends is the more player-friendly version of the MOBA genre, I would say that Dota 2 is the player-hostile version, as in it's a version that spits in the players' faces and tells them they suck, and then it kicks them in the head while they're down, and it just keeps beating the players. I'm just like, you like it, motherfucker? You like it? Take another kick in the chest, and just like beating people down. That's kind of what I feel Dota does, and people apparently love that, which I'm pretty sure that maybe... I mean, considering that most of my audience likes Dark Souls, maybe you guys would actually like Dota 2. I don't know. I don't want to get into that whole debate. I personally don't appreciate Dota 2 that much. I don't like the mechanics like the deny mechanics. I don't like the last hit mechanics. Now, League of Legends has last hits, right? So Dota 2 takes it one step further in the complexity of the whole thing and has last hits and denies. So not only you have to last hit the minions of the enemies so that you get gold and experience and all that, you also have to, whenever possible, last hit your own minions to deny the experience from your enemies. And I'm just like, you're just taking shit to a whole nother level that I really don't think I like that much. And on top of that, you can do the same thing for towers. So you can not only damage the enemy towers, you can also damage your own towers, burn your towers down to prevent the enemy from getting experience and gold from destroying your towers. So, not a big fan of any of those mechanics, really, and none of those mechanics are present in Heroes of the Storm. I mean, you really shouldn't ever need to last hit in Heroes of the Storm because everything gets split evenly among the characters. Now, a lot of players are going to say, oh, but you don't really have items. No, you don't. That's because the talent system is diverse enough to allow you to do whatever you want with your hero without necessarily needing talent. So, for instance, a hero that I remember is... really allows you to fulfill two roles. I mean, most heroes will allow you to fulfill multiple roles. Like, for instance, you see me play Murden because I really like dwarves, obviously, so I really like playing Murden. Even though on the video I'm playing Uther because I'm practicing my Uther play because I tend to play more support when I'm with Squadron. But I really like Murden. In Murden, you can build him like super tanky, or you can build him a little bit less tanky, but with a lot more damage, which is what Hengist builds. Usually when I build Murden, I build him like the tankiest motherfucker on the planet. When Hengist plays Murden, he plays the exact opposite of me. He builds Murden like to deal as much possible damage as he can. Murden still won't deal that much damage, but then again, there's a bunch of heroes on League of Legends that, let's face it, at least when I was playing, they would never deal any damage, like, for instance, Alistar. Really? Alistar was never going to deal any damage regardless of how you built him. At least that's what I remember. Maybe you guys have a different experience now, I don't know, but Alistar would never, like, deal that much damage to begin with. So yeah, obviously the heroes, each of them will have their own designated roles, but they will each be able to fulfill different roles depending on how you spec them. Like you have not Murden, you have Malfurion, who is a healer, and he can like cast roots and stuff, and you can actually spec him so that his roots hit really hard and his moonfire hits really hard and all that, and instead of being like this super mega healing machine, he will be a healing machine that won't heal as much, but he will deal a lot more damage. So there's different ways to build your characters that will enable you to fulfill different roles without necessarily needing items. And the good thing about this is that the game just becomes a massive team fight. And I know that some players are like, oh, but what about all the other mechanics, yada, 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 this, that, and the other. But that was always what I liked the most about League of Legends was the team fights. The team fighting aspect of it, to me, was like the best part. And you're like, oh, no, I'm sorry. The team fighting aspect was the best part. When you have those big friggin' team fights, or 2-on-2s or 3-on-3s, that's when the game really gets going. That's when the game is really fun. Like, the whole shit you had to do at the start of it, like the farming and the denies on Dota and all that stuff that you have to do in order to actually get to the end game of a match, where you were actually just running around and like everybody's team fighting. Like, the beginning of it was boring. I'm sorry, I can't put it any other way. I know that there's some players who like it, but I can't imagine they think it's fun. Do you actually mean to tell me that last hitting for like 20 minutes or something at the start of a game is fun to you? you know, just sitting there waiting for the energy to like go down until it's just like a little hairline, and then you shoot the minion dies, and then you stop and you wait for a bunch of more time. Sure, you can do a rasp while you're doing that, you know, hitting the enemy every now and then, but let's face it, most of the times when you're focusing really hard on farms, you're not going to be focusing that much on the rasp. You're going to leave that to your support or something. And I just never thought that particular aspect of it was that much fun. And again, that could just be me. But most of my friends that play League of Legends, I don't think they thought it was fun either. They just did it because they kind of had to. So the fact that Heroes just removes last hitting, removes the need to go back to your base constantly to upgrade your items and do all of that stuff is just good, because I can literally do a match without going to base once. You can't do that. You don't need to go to base once. There's no need to go back to base. And now you guys are like, so basically it's just like this clusterfuck of people killing each other over and over, and there's nothing else to it. That's where you're wrong, because there are objectives in these maps. Each of these maps has objectives, like the same way in League of Legends when you go to Summoner's Rift, which is the main map that people used to play back when I played League of Legends. I know that there are a couple of more maps that people play now. There were more maps at the time, but everyone played Summoner's Rift and nothing else. So, the same way that in that map you have like the jungle minions that will give you stuff, like they will give you obviously experience and gold, but they will also give you buffs and whatnot that will change the dynamic of how the game plays out. In here you have objectives that are a lot cooler, in my opinion. Now, some of these objectives are cool. Other objectives, not so cool. Like, there's this one map, Garden of Terror. Everybody, I think, hates Garden of Terror. I friggin' hate Garden of Terror. I can't stand that map. But then there's Haunted Mines, and all of these maps will have, like, different objectives. Just to give you an idea, for instance, the Garden of Terror is essentially a map where you have to kill these minions. The map has a day-night cycle, and when it comes nighttime, you have to go kill these planned minions, and they give you these seeds, at which point you will grow, like, this Garden Terror on your base, which is this golem that you can take control of, and you can take him and he's going to deal massive damage, and he's got these special abilities and whatnot. And that golem is going to be something that changes the dynamic of the gameplay completely. Like, you can't do a team fight the same way that you would do when there's a golem involved in it, because the golem is going to just deal massive amounts of damage and do all kinds of stuff, so you have to adapt to a situation like that. And obviously, beyond the team fighting, you're going to be fighting for these objectives, like in the Garden of Terror at night. What's the map I was playing that is going to be playing in the background? It's Haunted Mines. We'll talk about that one too. But at night, you will have both teams like struggling over who can capture more seeds to grow their Garden Terror on the base. When you capture 100 seeds, you get the Garden Terror. So that's the Garden of Terror. Then another map is the Haunted Mines, which is the one that you were watching, which is every now and then it will say, the mines are going to open in 30 seconds, which means you have to go into these mines, and inside the mines you will find these undead minions, and you have to gather skulls. Once you gather these skulls, you're going to spawn another massive golem. And that golem, however, you don't have any control over it. It's just going to push towards the enemy base. So each golem will be on a separate lane. So the enemy golem will be like on the bottom lane. Your golem will be on the top lane. And basically each team will have to make decisions onto how they handle the golem when the golem comes to attack their base. Because, for instance, there's only going to ever be 100 skulls, right? There's only going to be 100 skulls in the mines. And whoever gets the most skulls is going to get a more powerful golem. That's how the map that I'm playing right now works. So let's say if one team gets like 80 skulls and the other one gets like 20, the team with 20 skulls is going to get like a really weak sauce golem that's not going to deal that much damage. The team with the 80 skulls golem is going to just crush the enemy base. So the teams will then have to decide how they're going to handle that. If they're going to defend the enemy golem that's going to attack their base, or if they're going to push with their golem and attack onto the enemy team's base. And you have to constantly adapt, which again changes the dynamic of the game to be more than just team fights. You know, you got a lot of team fights at the start, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe people are just focusing on farming their lanes, because there is still farming. But luckily enough, when you're farming in Heroes of the Storm, you don't have to even worry about last hitting. All you do is really just you hit the mobs whenever you want, and you just focus on trying to kill the enemy heroes as they overextend or do anything stupid like that. But that is the Haunted Mines. Now, beyond the Haunted Mines, there's another map, which is Blackheart Bay, which is also pretty cool. It's this map where you have spawning treasure chests that will drop gold coins, and then you use those gold coins to pay to this pirate that's in the middle of the map. And the pirate will then bombard the enemy base with his ship, because he's got a ship and he's got cannons and shit, and it bombards the enemy base. So if you completely ignore someone and they're constantly turning in coins, they're going to blow the crap out of the enemy base. So again, that is something that is going to change the dynamics of how team fights work, because team fights will happen around the treasure chests when they spawn. Team fights will happen around the hand-in point, where you have to hand in the coins and all that stuff. And team fights will obviously still happen all throughout the map as each of the teams is disputing the terrain. And then there's another map, which is the Dragon Shrine, which is essentially a map that there's two shrines, one on top and one on bottom. And if at any point one team controls both shrines, another shrine in the middle becomes active, which allows you to transform one character into this really massive Dragon Knight that can just wreak havoc on the enemy base. So yeah, a lot of these maps have like these golem mechanics that you have to play around, but each of these mechanics plays very differently depending on which map you are playing in. So it does provide you with a different experience, and also you get a bigger diversity of maps, whereas usually in League of Legends we just tended to play Summoner's Rift. Back when I played, at least. I'm not sure if it's any different now or not. So those are a lot of the differences that Heroes of the Storm has over these other MOBA titles. Again, like I said, I'm not a big expert on the whole MOBA thing. I know that there's more MOBAs and all that, but to me, the two main ones that exist right now are League of Legends Dota 2, and when Heroes of the Storm hits the scene, I really believe that Heroes of the Storm is going to be the better one of the three. Now, I know that a lot of people are really frustrated because they still don't have access and all that. I was one of those people earlier in the year. I was like, what the fuck? I was supposed to interview someone about this game, because I did an interview on Heroes of the Storm in my channel, if you guys remember that. I was supposed to interview someone about this game that I never played, and everyone else that's going to interview them has already played the game. I feel like I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage here. Something else that I thought was really interesting, I'm not sure if it's going to change, because most of the stuff that I'm talking about in Heroes of the Storm is obviously subject to change because the game is still in tech alpha. But something that I really enjoyed in Heroes of the Storm is the fact that as you level up heroes and as you level up your account, because your account also has like a level system, you unlock new things for your characters, but namely cosmetic things, which is interesting because you'd figure they would hide all of the cosmetic changes behind a paywall, because that would be the way to do it, so that they can actually make money off of the game. Like that's the way League of Legends does it. I believe that you can't. I mean, you might be able to get a free skin. I remember you used to get a free skin for subscribing to Riot's YouTube channel and another free skin for liking their Facebook page, but that was about it, if I remember correctly. Maybe there's a couple more promotions where they offer free skins, but apart from that, most of the time when you would buy a hero, you would usually just get the default skin that comes with that hero, and that's that. In order to get a different skin, you would have to pony up and buy the skin with money. And I'm not criticizing that business model, mind you. I think that's a perfectly fair business model, because it enables me to buy whatever heroes I want. And if I want to, you know, put a little bling on them, I would fork out some cash. I completely agree with that business model. I think that's the best way to do it, to be honest. But in Heroes of the Storm, they actually unlock these skin tints, which are not new skins per se, but they will change the way your character looks, and it allows you to just, you know, have at least 3 different looks to your character so that you don't get bored of playing it the same way over and over. And obviously you still have the completely different skins that you can buy for each of the characters, as well as a master skin, which I actually think is really cool. It's a really cool concept, even though I haven't unlocked a single master skin. But there is a master skin for each of the characters, which is if you reach level 10 with a character, which takes a considerable amount of time. If you reach level 10 with a character, you can spend 10,000 gold, which is in-game currency, not real-life currency, to buy a master skin, which is a unique skin that only characters who reach level 10 can get. But yeah, I mean, I just think Heroes of the Storm is just leaps and bounds. I didn't even mention mounts. There's mounts in Heroes of the Storm. Like at any point in time, it can, I mean, depending on the character, because some characters will have different mechanics to the whole mount thing. Like, for instance, Falstad will be able to fly anywhere in the map instead of mounting up, which is still a pretty cool mechanic. I know that the tank, Sergeant Hammer, also has a special ability that she flies off or something with the whole thing, but a lot of the characters will actually have mounts. So you press the Z button, and you will actually mount, and you'll be able to move around faster through the map, which is, again, another really cool mechanic that is very simple. I mean, it's not too hard. Just put a mountain there. Boom. You can run through the map. But it really changes the dynamic of the game because you can go from point A to point B a lot faster. I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot of simple things that Heroes of the Storm is doing that, in my opinion, make it a better game than League of Legends and DOTA. But again, this is my opinion. What is your opinion? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.